G'day Plantifiers, Jess here and welcome back to the garden. So it's May, which is the end of autumn here in the subtropics of Australia, and lots has been happening this month, like so much has been happening in the garden. We have a lot to harvest and I've been planting absolutely tons of winter type veg. We have been getting beans and cucumbers and lots of lettuce and chilies and all sorts of things. So it has been an unusually wet and warm autumn. Like I've barely worn a jumper at this point, which is quite unusual. And there's been so much rain. In fact, it's only stopped raining really in the last week or two. And normally our wet season does not go this long. So things are growing, as far as I've been hearing, things are growing a little bit differently to normal. This is only my second year growing a proper vegetable garden, so really I'm still learning what is normal and what is not normal, and I'm quite happy with how things have been going. This is one of our cayenne bushes. We've only got two. You can see the other one in the background there, and they're still producing. Even though it's almost the end of May, we are still getting chilies off these bushes, which is not what I expected, but I'm quite happy about it because we managed to eat our way through most of them. This is our winged bean plant, which I didn't know if it was ever going to flower and fruit, but it started this beginning of this month. It's actually a perennial subtropical tropical fruit plant, and the beans can be eaten as small beans off the vine, or you can let them develop and actually eat the seeds. But it has these beautiful blue flowers, and it's just taken over this trellis and has been super happy in this spot. And we've managed to actually get our first winged beans, which I'm really excited about because they do grow so well, and thankfully they taste pretty good as well. I am currently eating the very first winged bean off the winged bean vine. And it's pretty tasty. This is of course citrus season here, so our oranges have been coming into fruit, and that is really exciting, except the fact that our local flock of cockatoos discovered our orchard at the end of last season and have remembered it and have come back again. So as you can see, we had to cover our trees in whatever we had lying around so that all of our fruit didn't end up like this one. The normal fruit netting we tried, but they just chewed through it. So we pulled out these other tarps and things that we had lying around, and that seems to have done the trick. And we've managed to protect most of our fruit from the cockatoos, and they haven't gotten their little mouths on it, thankfully. Which is great because I love this time of year. There are so many things I love to make with citrus. Citrus braised pulled pork, a delicious orange self-saucing pudding. I also like to make candied peel and dipped it in chocolate, which is pretty delicious. So, you know, of course orange juice as well, but there's so many things you can make with oranges, and it's really awesome. I love this time of year for that reason. So we also, as I said earlier, have been growing cucumbers and button squash, but because of all the rain, we've had a real problem with powdery mildew. So I've had to be pretty ruthless with cutting off really damaged leaves and then giving them a milk spray. So it's about a 40-60 milk to water mix spray, which is a nice organic spray for the powdery mildew. And I had to wait for it to stop raining to actually use the spray. So that's why there were so many really badly affected leaves, because there's no point in putting it on and then it just gets washed straight off. But hopefully this is going to extend the life of these plants. And I've also been trying to pollinate this is my tromboncino, which has been limping along since I don't know when I planted this, early summer, and it's finally giving us a little bit of fruit, but it is planted in not a great spot, so we'll see how we go. All right, tomatoes. We've had a lot of tomatoes planted out this month. So this bed had this yarrow, which has just kind of loved it here and taken over, but I had to pull a bunch of it out to make space because this wall is a really good spot for tomatoes and I wanted to put some here. So I cleaned that out, replanted the yarrow elsewhere, and put a whole bunch of lovely fresh compost from our compost bin on the surface, put some trellises in, and I've planted some tomatoes in here. This is Teddy, just one of our two cats who likes to hang out with us in the garden sometimes when we are doing our gardening. The rest of the time he's inside. So I decided to do the old banana peel, but only in one hole. So I've done 2 different types of tomatoes here on each side, and I've only put a banana peel in one of them. I'm just curious to see if it's going to make any difference to the growth of the plant at all, or if it's a bit of an old wives' tale. I mean, it'll add more nutrients to that tomato, if nothing else. So I'm going to actually do a video on that in a few months' time, and I'm going to compare the yield of the tomato with the banana peel and the one that doesn't have the banana peel. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see that when I do it. So down here in the vine garden in winter is a really good spot for sun. So I decided to plant out a bunch of my tomatoes here. So we've got a variety of different ones from the lovely Farmer Phil, who I'll talk about later in the video. And I've decided to try a bunch of different varieties that I've never grown before, so we'll see how they go. The soil down here is not brilliant. I have tried to improve it, so the ones in the ground, we'll see how they go. I'm not hugely hopeful that they'll be amazing, but I'm hoping with the improvement I've done over the last year or so that they might grow decently. I also decided to do a bunch of them in pots for this reason, because I wanted to put them down there in that same area that gets the really good sun at this time of year. So I decided to do a bunch in pots, and I've mixed my potting mix with some perlite. I'm obviously wearing a mask while I'm doing this because that perlite is not something you want to breathe in. And then I mixed that through to make sure it has decent drainage. And that is what I've chosen to plant the rest of my tomatoes in, to see how they go. And I've done a whole different variety of sizes as well. The really big, sort of indeterminate beefsteaky type ones I've tried to put in the big pots, and then in the smaller pots I've done the smaller varieties. I think there's like a kangaroo paw variety and a Roma variety that I've put in the smaller pots. So we'll see how they all go. I'm curious how many tomatoes we are actually going to get. I'm really hoping for like a massive amount of tomatoes, because I love tomatoes and I love all of the things made with tomatoes, like bolognese and things like that. So I'm also really interested to try the different varieties. I've got like, I don't know, 6 or 7, 8 different varieties growing, to see which ones work well in our climate, which ones we enjoy, and it's going to be an interesting experiment to see how these all come out. So this is kind of the prime position for the tomatoes, so they get plenty of winter sun. And if you're wondering why the heck you're growing tomatoes through winter, well, we do in our climate because it's still warm enough, we don't have frosts, and it means we avoid the fruit fly, mostly, hopefully, that is a massive issue here in the summer. So this is, I'm calling Tomato Alley, and I'm hoping in a month or two it's going to be full of big, vigorous tomato plants, and I will report back in future what I'm growing videos, so you can see how these tomatoes have been progressing throughout that time. So that's going to be fun to see how they grow. So all those tomatoes, or most of those tomatoes that you saw me planting, and a bunch of my other seedlings this month, have come from Farmer Phil, who is a local grower of beautiful seedlings, as you can see. And he's actually my sponsor, so thank you so much, Phil. He gives me so many wonderful seedlings for me to plant and grow in my garden, and I'm very happy to give him a shout out in return. If you're on the Sunshine Coast, go check him out at the Witter markets every month, and he'll sometimes pop up at other markets as well. So follow him on Facebook and you'll see what he's up to. But I highly recommend his seedlings. I mean, just look at them, absolutely beautiful, and they grow really, really well. So this is the bunch that I brought home from that visit, and you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff here, herbs and lettuces and all sorts of winter veg. So I prepped these beds here outside the bamboo house, and I'm filling them up with a whole bunch of winter veg. So we've got some broccoli going in there, we've got some cabbage going in there, I've got a mustard plant going in there. I've never grown mustard before, so I have no idea how that's going to go. That's what I'm planting right now. So that'll be really interesting, because we use a lot of mustard seed in our pickling, so it'd be really cool to be able to grow our own mustard seed and not just be buying it. You know, it's one of those things, it's cheap to buy, but sometimes it's just really fun to try growing it yourself and see what you might get. So I am planting a whole bunch of those winter veg in this bed, and also, you know, some lettuce and some flowers as well, because I do like to do that polyculture technique. And then I've got to protect them. Now, I just grabbed a few sticks from the garden. As you can see, they're not exactly perfect. And then I've whacked some chicken wire over the top, and this is to protect them from the brush turkeys, from them coming along and just digging up what I've planted, which is, as you can see in the bamboo house, has a fence around it to protect the plants in there as well. So there's lots growing there, and we shall see how they all grow over time. They don't get a great amount of sun in that particular bed, so they might be slow growing, but I'm hoping that they'll still be okay. And that the rest of the seedlings that I've gotten from Phil, I have planted in various places throughout the rest of my garden in little pockets. I almost never like rip out everything and replant a whole bed. I tend to do things in pockets, mostly because I do polyculture style gardening and because we grow all year round here. So there's not a fallow season like there is in a lot of other climates. Now you may have noticed that I didn't put any netting over my brassicas, and that's because I'm experimenting with these cabbage white butterfly decoys this year to see if this is enough to keep the butterflies off my brassicas. Also because I do plant polyculture style, like I mix my brassicas with a whole bunch of flowers and other plants. I'm hoping that those two things together might be enough to keep them off my plants, but I don't know. I'm going to report back and let you know. Another project we've been working on this month is the bathtub pond, and I'm going to do a whole video on this once we've finished it, so do make sure to subscribe if you want to see that. But we got this bathtub from my parents' bathroom renovation, and we've decided to put it by the pathway here right near the bamboo house garden. So we had to remove what was there, dig out a space for it and get it in there, but I've just started to fill it up and plant it out, so I've got a lot more plans for this. There was so much more that happened this month that I couldn't fit into this video, but thanks for coming along and seeing what we've been up to this month. I can't wait to show you the progress of everything I've planted. And from me and Teddy, that's a bye for now, and see you next time.